Hello and welcome. I am Rzeźnik and this is my video guide to what is the best, in my opinion, spearman unit in Total War Attila. Disclaimer, opinion, meaning I cannot objectively determine what is the best unit. You have to determine what are the best unit criteria, and those criteria are dependent upon you. However, this guide still will be useful to you, as you will see how my thinking results in those conclusions that I make, and how useful it is for your own conclusions. The game version is 1.1, and small disclaimer is that I do not possess the Longbirds DLC, as I refuse to buy it. I think it's a bad policy, and the spear units in this DLC are non-factor in this comparison because they are sub-par. So this best spear unit is going to be based on data, but only on data, not only on data, because data is not enough. You need to see how the units perform in the game. You need to have the larger scope of the game, of the unit specific role in the game, not just pointing out, oh, this unit has a bigger coefficient of stats versus money. No. So let's determine, in my opinion, what is the best spearman unit. It needs to meet three criteria. First, it is to receive cavalry charge and survive. Good enough. Second, it needs to deal damage to cavalry, so the cavalry is afraid of its damage potential. 3, it has to be a bang for the buck unit. Meaning, if you are buying a counter unit, you don't want to overspend. What if the enemy doesn't bring any cavalry? Then you wasted your money. You want to be overspending on multi-purpose, multi-role units that elevate or leverage to your game. The counter, the defensive units that put you on the defensive, on the reactionary side of the game, shouldn't be the primary focus because of your tactic. As the saying goes, the best defense is offense. With those three criteria in mind, I'm gonna tell you how I evaluate the units. Now, I could talk about this topic alone, not delving into those details of those stats. So I'll be making shortcuts. I'll be giving examples, and you have to forgive me because this video would be way too long, I think, for you. If you are more interested in detail, maybe I'll do a very in-depth wide one. Okay, so let's meet the first criteria. A unit of spearmen that you bring that loses against melee infantry will need to survive enemy cavalry charge. What determines this behavior? I believe the most important to this is entity mass stat, which could be covered in a different video. The fact that unit can be very light, medium heavy, and very heavy determines if mass, which is not listed, it determines its health bonus, health base rather, and various other stats. This is the most important, and the charge from cavalry it's a special effect in itself. It's not an attack per se. It is a vector that strikes your unit and throws them back. And the bigger mass you are versus the mass of the charging enemy, the less impact will be produced and less casualties you will suffer just on the impact. So you want to go as heavy as you can, meaning heavy or very heavy. If you were to go for the entity mass tables, which I'll do in another video because it's a deep other topic. Medium units get 100 mass, and a very heavy get 150, which is 50% more. So you get 50% more mass, which means 50% less, you could say, less potent to the charge. So going heavy is very important. So first criteria that I'm gonna sort all units is go heavy or very heavy, medium, very light, very light specifically, very no. Because this comes to the second point. If I wanted a unit, spear unit that were not to receive the charge of the enemy cavalry, but to assist other unit with its damage, then these guys, very light guys, are okay. They're gonna run after, and the mass isn't important. But in this scenario, and you could say I want a damage assist, but there are many more units. You could do it with axes, horse hewers. You don't need spearmen specifically for it. I believe spearmen are, because of the weapon they carry, they are built for dealing damage to cavalry and receiving the charge. So you want to good damage, and what it means to good damage, all the units, the spear units, melee spear units, infantry spear units, carry the same spear. There are 3 spears in the game: light spear, spear, and heavy spear. Light spear, only 1 unit in game have a light spear. We can see Pagan Band, 20 base damage, 5 armor piercing for 25 total, against the normal spear 24 and 8 armor piercing for 32 total. There is also a heavy spear, but no infantry unit so far carry heavy spear. So weapons uniform. The damage potential comes really from melee attack, which is the likelihood of attacking. It's not strictly percentage. I believe it is to the tied to like normal distribution. It's more of a function. We cannot see the functions in the game, the algorithms. We can only say data. How the data is interwoven, incorporated into the algorithm, the programming. We cannot say we can make an educated guess about it. However, what we know, the more the better. So you want to deal damage, the higher attack you want. And we come back again to mass. If on the charge you receive 30 casualties against the 15 casualties, more men are there to fight with higher morale. So not dying to cavalry is very important to dealing damage to cavalry. Okay, so this is the second criteria that I have to meet. Third criteria is what is the bang for the buck. You don't want to overspend. In a single player even, one could argue that it doesn't matter. Well, it does on high difficulties. And in multiplayer, it is critical to get the most out of your gold coins. Okay, so with this criteria, we could sort those units, because I would love to talk about each of those units and how do I see its role or not. It will take a long time. So we are going to sort those units and which meet those basic criteria. And I would say the fourth kind of criteria is the ability. The ability is critical to the spearmen, and spearmen in the game have 3 abilities. They can 4 actually. Spear wall for the Germanic and Nordic guys, shield screen for nomadic, defensive Tissudo for Romans, and square for the Eastern cultures, which nomadic and Eastern being just one faction so far. And these have different advantages, disadvantages, variables, abilities. However, my conclusion is that not only the best, but the only really viable in use formation for spearmen is spear wall for Germanic and Nordic guys, because simply because you can move. I've tested it, this scenario, and if you perform a defensive formation of spearmen that is immobile, who in the right mind as a cavalry is going to attack them? Answer is no one. They are just going to ignore it. And doesn't matter if your position is the strongest position, if you have a bigger bonus, the enemy won't attack you. You want to be mobile. So this reasoning, because you are able to move, I think this is the only viable formation for spearmen. This is first. And a must have really, that spearmen without it are not worth taking, in my opinion, because the bonus to mass, which means the heavy unit instead of 150 mass will have 300 mass, meaning receiving less casualties on the charge. We're having a damage bonus of 15 and shield defense, which is also receiving you a bigger chance to evade the attack. Means that this is a must-have when receiving a charge. Receiving enemy charge without this skill is a no-no. If the unit does not have spear wall or any other, that means they are more of assist with damage than receive a charge, because they will be more than decimated. And why is it so important? Well, the mass is the biggest here, and the shield defense. What happens with charge? The impact is it's unclear mechanically how it works, but it's not an attack. So it's a mass versus mass, and based on this, the units are thrown away, the models are thrown away and receive damage. On the distance, on the mass times velocity difference, it's hard to tell. However, the heavier your guys are, the more mass they have, the less prone are there to death from the charge. So mass is very important to have. Then melee defense. On the aftermath, when the shock cavalry charges, they receive a huge bonus to their melee attack and damage, which deteriorates over time rapidly. And this damage goes into hundreds, like 200, even maybe 300 in some cases, close to 300, and it is going to one-shot you. Because if an infantryman has 100 health, and the enemy cavalry with bonus from charge has say 270, there is almost 3 times as much to one-shot you. And reducing this 300 damage by 60, 50, whatever, doesn't matter, you're still gonna die. So armor is redundant at this point when receiving a over-level blow. What you want is to avoid the damage completely, which comes from defense, which is split to shield and base. And melee defense, which is chance to avoid attack. Because if someone touches you and you die, you just don't want to be touched. You don't want to be wearing a thick shirt, it doesn't help then. So melee defense, very important on receiving a charge. In prolonged engagement, okay, but the cavalry is not about prolonging, it's just about crushing you and disengaging and engaging again. So melee defense, very important, and mass on receiving the charge. These are stats that you have to look for. And spear wall helps with those both. Amazing. And it gives damage. The damage is insane if you want to damage the cavalry, which is 50 bonus. Then you get 20 bonus for a 35 total, and then 32 from weapon, which is 32 plus 35 from bonus, 67 damage against cavalry, 8 of which is armor piercing. This is a huge damage on a very cheap units that you can achieve. So no contestants here. The problem with cavalry is you have to survive to deal damage first. Okay, so we established that all those units that don't have spear wall here, that have shield screen, defensive citadel square, sorry, but you are immobile. So either your ability is unusable, really, because enemy cavalry is not going to charge into you, and if you are to catch them up, you won't be able to activate it because you cannot toggle your formation in combat. So only Germanic and Nordic guys are for consideration on the spearman side, and looking at them, well, we have like alpha units almost off the equation right off the bat. So looking at them, which is the first criteria, survive. We can eliminate Germanic levy. Oh, precursor. Oh, okay, the weapon. Oh, very light. So these guys go off the window. So are the very light line medium guys go off the window? Are all the non-spear wall guys go out of the window? We satisfy those 2 criteria that I spoke before. Now the third criteria I spoke before is bang for the buck. This is the consideration. Which unit out of the heavy spear wall units goes good? Gives you the most value for the buck. Meaning that if you were given a budget, and within a budget you were to receive charges, it is best that you buy as many of those units as possible instead of the other, because you will get the best results. And what I think is determining is that precursors are a big no-no on spear infantry. Why? When in formation, you cannot throw precursors nor charge, with the exception of square. When in square you can throw precursors. Approximately 1/4 of your melee unit can throw precursor. But as we determined, square is an immobile formation, so no. Okay, why does it matter? Because imagine a cavalry is charging at your front, and you can either throw a precursor and charge the enemy cavalry, throw a precursor and brace, which means just stand there, or be in formation and not throw a precursor nor charge. And the best results will be achieved from just standing in formation, which is spear wall. Because the assuming formation takes 3, 7 or 3 seconds, there is not enough time for you to throw the precursor and assume the formation, because the cavalry will be all upon you. You have to choose. There is a very small window in some times when you could do it, but it is so inconsistent, so micro intensive, that this is not a technique that you will get 100% results, and I strongly not recommend trying to be greedy, because when you lose, you're gonna lose the whole unit and probably your defensive lane to the enemy charge. So precursors are bad, and the problem with precursors is that from a game designer perspective, every unit is given a budget. Every unit has a cost, and according to the cost, with some variation, it has a budget set on the cost. And within the cost has to come stuff. And being able to throw stuff, like precursors, depletes the budget. This value that I would estimate for Germanic Spearmasters to be about 100. This unit, if not to throw precursors, could be, I would say, cheaper by 100, if not to precursors, which you are not going to use. So you're wasting, for an example, 100 gold just by having this ability. You could argue that, well, if you assist the enemy, then you can charge and throw. Well, but then it is an assist unit, not a receive charge unit. So back to the criteria 1. Okay, with that in mind, precursors are a no-no, because it means you are ineffective with your cash. You are not spending well. If you're we're not talking about assisting or throwing from behind the ranks. Okay, we just want to receive charge, deal good meal damage. And for the same reason, charge bonus. When in formation you cannot charge, and you add the charge, or you don't. And I would make an argument that having 15 shield defense, 100% mass, 15% bonus is better than charge of this. So Germanic Spearmasters are for 300 more than Germanic Spearmen, you get a lot of offensive standard, make them kind of a hybrid unit that they are kind of good on defense, kind of good on offense, but you really cannot charge enemy cavalry. It's a death wish. No melee infantry, infantry unit can charge cavalry when cavalry is charging. No matter the stats. Okay, so it's like a hybrid that you can charge with maybe a Medicore melee infantry and throw javelins. It's like a jack of all trades, good at none, and I don't like this concept with this unit. I just want a hard charge to cavalry, which is at this very moment of patch 1.1 dominating the game. I want to say a stop to this with a good defensive with high damage potential unit. Okay, so we determine those, and with this criteria in mind, no nonsense, no stats wasted like charge bonus, negligible. Precursors, no. Except even 2 of them. How many times do you, when you are about to receive a charge and then engage, you are going to do 2 of them? Most often than not, one of those is wasted, because someone charges you, you throw 1 on the mission, combat ensures your unit dies or is depleted, and even if they get another chance to throw the javelin by engaging combat, it's like 50 men throwing it. So it's still 1 would be okay for some units. And it come to conclusion, I've determined on my personal opinion, based on my personal opinion, that the best unit with those criteria in mind is a Germanic Spearmen. That I would pick Germanic Spearmen every time out of the other units. First place goes to Elite Dog Spearmen from Saxons, and Nordic Spearmasters get the 3rd place. Okay, so as you probably can see, these factions are sort of factions. The red unit color means that the unit is shared across more than one faction, and all black means that this is a faction-specific unit. And cost size, the rest, I think, at the overall level, I do not have of understanding the game. I do not have to explain. It would take a lot of time, and it's beyond the scope of this guide. So why Germanic Spearmen are the best unit? First, You can see I use 2 tiers of units, below 500 and equal, or above 500 of gold, the in-game value. Well, the reason is simple. In a multiplayer battle, you are receiving funds of about 10,000, right? And which is 1 year limit to your army. And the second limit, actual, is the unit slots, which you get 20. Meaning that if you were to assign a budget to a certain slot, which is to divide 10,000 by 20 slots, you receive an average budget of 500 per slot that you can spend. And if you were to populate every slot for 500, you would save the biggest numerical army. And having more units is better because you can flank more, reinforce more. More is better in this equation, unless not compromising on quality or value per gold. Below 500 means that you can achieve a huge army, and above it means that you are going to cut on the slots, on army slots. You're not gonna bring 20 units, but less. And what I like about cheaper units, cheaper specialized support units, is that spearmen are not going to leverage your army. They're not gonna seal you the win. It's the cavalry. It may be some heavy meal infantry. Spearmen are the filler, the stopper. And they cannot be too expensive, because if you overspend on spearmen, if you bring them, and the enemy rolls with non-cavalry for some reason, then what good are your spearmen? They're just gonna die to swords. So you cannot overextend like this. And those units shouldn't be super specialized. Your army should be consisting in a large portion of a specialized unit. Best unit is a multi-role unit that can fulfill different role, and when an enemy doesn't bring something you expect, you can still use them otherwise. And Germanic spearmen are nonsense unit. They are cheap, below 500. They have no precursors. They are heavy. They have 29 defense plus 15 from the ability which ups it to 44. They have 50 free armor, decent block chance. Entity mass is very good. For the back, you get a very solid unit that can withstand charge from most melee and shock infantries, cavalries, except for the very, very high tier ones, and survive in a quite a decent number of men and still deal good damage. And I like this unit very much. The second places are those guys, and those guys, if you imagine that. If you were to bring Germanic spearmen budget by veteraning it up by spending chevrons close to the 600, you can spend maximum 135 gold on upgrading up, so it will cost 585. To the level of those, you would get better stats, but still those guys still have a overhead with the value on them because of the special abilities and stats. But because they are on the higher tier, meaning that you're overcommitting to a counter unit with your budget, you're compromising your army integrity, but maybe getting lesser cavalry or melee infantry, they are not my first pick. So this is by far the best contender in the spearman category. And going through this logic, applying this logic to all of those units, I came up with those conclusions. So, to sum it up, the best ability, the must-have ability, Spear Wall, because you can move and attack. If a cavalry is to flank you, on the left side you have shield bonus, on the right side you don't. So they probably want to flank you from the right side. You can not only move in rotation, translational movement, right, left, front, back, but you can also rotate. If you hold left alt and right click, you can rotate your unit in formation. So left alt, right click is in the game controls menu if you want to check it out. So you can rotate in formation. Other units that would have to, those units would have to drop formation, move, assume formation, which is too much. If a cavalry sees that you drop formation, they start moving, they charge in, and you are caught with your pants down. These guys always in formation. So movement is only translational, but also rotational movement. And what's more, you can attack with it. If the enemy cavalry charges a target nearby, you can order an attack order, and they will gonna keep the formation and attack. Here's a quick tip: when you have Germanic spearmen and throw and get them information in spear wall and right click on enemy unit. They're gonna walk toward the target, and upon reaching a certain distance, charge distance, they're gonna drop the formation and charge. You don't want to do it unless in specific occasions, but if it's cavalry, you want to walk there in formation. So what I do is I click just a move order beside the enemy unit, thus they just walk into the enemy, and upon touching the enemy they assume combat, still in formation, receiving those important bonuses. So you can do that. You can move information, rotate information, engage information. It's amazing. So spear wall. Second, heavy or very heavy, nothing below. Medium, no. Medium and heavy guys have the same health base, which is 90. But the mass is 100 to 150, so 50% more mass on heavy than medium. So heavy at least. And a good no-nonsense stats, which is sorry but no precursors. And this is my reasoning on choosing the best spearman in the game right now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have different opinions, and you will probably have, because it's an opinion piece, right? You cannot determine mathematically what is the best. You have to agree what are the criteria. Those are my criteria that I established my opinion on. I hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see, there's a lot more units that I could talk about in depth, and a lot more mechanics. See you around.